Welcome to Women Don't Do That, where we empower you with inspiration, knowledge, and skills to redefine your boundaries and unleash your potential. I'm Stephanie Minton, founder and CEO of Beacon North Strategies and your guide. Small town girl turned CEO while navigating career, motherhood, ADHD, and chronic migraines. Our conversations range from interviews with visionary women to solo episodes filled with actionable insights. We are your hub for turning what ifs into let's go. Are you ready to redefine your possible? Let's get started. Welcome back to the Women Don't Do That podcast. It's been a few months and I'm so excited to be here to tell you about the new season and catch up and share some insights today. You may notice that the podcast has a different intro and also it looks a little bit different. We've got a fresh makeover, so make sure you check it out to see our new logo and look. One of the other exciting things that is happening with this new launch is that we are doing YouTube now as well. So you can also watch these episodes online. We do have a few backlog episodes that were recorded before the break. And so we will be showing those to you and releasing them today. And they do not have YouTube. However, all of the ones after that, as well as today's episode, are on YouTube. So you can feel free to listen to them, certainly, but you can also watch us as well. I wanted to start this episode off by talking about some of the life lessons and professional lessons I've learned over the last couple months since our last episode and where I am today. And within that, one of the things that I want to unpack with you today is how you can bounce back stronger when you're navigating these personal and professional challenges. I've been through a lot the last couple months, so let's get into it. So when we talk about the life update, it has been a while and I am so glad to be back. And the reality is that this season over the last couple months, it really started last spring, has been really challenging from a professional perspective and in my business. As some of you may know, I own a public affairs business called Beacon North Strategies, which is a couple years old, but I only went in it full time 1 year ago, come the fall, was a year. And so it still feels fairly young and new because it's really only been just over a year that I've really dove in with both feet. I guess basically a year and a half now. And it has been filled with a lot of challenges, a lot of life lessons, and it's been a really challenging time with a lot of barriers to overcome. And these challenges in my business also created impacts in my personal life and also on my finances. All of those things are connected. And so it has been a rough couple of months. And so dealing with barriers and having to be resilient and challenging self doubt are all things that I've had to be working through. And some of you may know that maybe in an unusual way, self doubt is not something that is normal for me to struggle with. I'm usually pretty confident. And so it really was in the dumps kind of situation. And so I want to talk to you about going through that experience and some of the things that really helped me move forward to where I am today. And then I'm going to talk a little bit later about where am I today. And as I mentioned, I'm going to share about how you can bounce back stronger when you go through these really challenging things and share more about the last couple of months. So, the first thing that really helped me was embracing your emotions. That is not something that comes natural to me. I'm very uncomfortable with emotions. It's so funny. My friends get these messages and phone calls from me that are like, I'm feeling this emotion and I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what to do about it because it's just not something that I normally deal with. And so I want to say that it's okay to cry. It's okay to mourn a loss or to mourn or be sad about setbacks or questioning if you should be running a business or want to, or any of the things that you're worried or stressed out about, or a loss, major loss in your finances, or the impacts that it's had on your family. Those things are really upsetting and really hard. And I think for me, I needed to own that this was really hard and really sad. It was okay to feel that way. And then I needed to allow that to happen in order to take steps to move past it. So that was really hard for me to do. The second thing is to develop a strategic action plan. And really, what I mean by that is shifting your focus towards constructive solutions. So you've mourned, you've been upset, you're having a tough time. And now, what are we going to do about it? How can we move forward? What are the things we can do to make change and to make progress and to get ourselves out of this situation? This is where you can outline clear steps to tackle the challenges at hand. You can break them down into manageable tasks and avoid feeling overwhelmed and feeling like you're doing something to get out of it. And so I really like to take this kind of stress and energy and turn it into action. And that really helps me move forward and kind of get on to the next thing. I have made a download for you, a guide in some of the processes and questions I ask myself to help me create that kind of action plan to take next steps. And so we will include a link to that in the show notes so you can have that as well. And it's free. So please feel free to download that as well. The third thing is to seek guidance or support. And this can be, maybe through your faith, through friends, through family, through professional networks. There's all kinds of resources, hopefully, that you have at hand. And if you don't, we're going to talk about that too later on. I think one of the most difficult things about this, and one of the most important, is that you're going to have to open up about your struggles. You're going to have to be honest. You're going to have to be transparent and be very vulnerable and a little bit humble with yourself about needing help or guidance or advice. And to know that it is okay to need that. There are times when you are the advice giver and the mentor, and there are times where you need to receive it. And if you think you don't, then you are going to be humbled when this happens to you. There really is strength in vulnerability, and it's something that you have to do in these kinds of instances. It is not weak, it is strong to ask for help and smart when you need it. It will help you get through these difficult situations. So, for instance, one of the things I had to humble myself with is I run a consulting business, and I have a lot of friends and acquaintances in other consulting firms who are more established or have been around for longer. And so I reached out to those professional networks and asked them for subcontract work if they could let me know. That was one of my action items. What could I do, especially in the short term? It can take a long time to find new clients. And so building up some subcontract work is one way where you can take a step forwards. And so I had to humble myself and ask for help. Another thing that I did was contact people in my industry that I knew well who owned businesses like mine and had been doing it for longer than me. So, for instance, I know a woman in my field who I actually don't know very well, and who had been in business about 10 years. So she has a head start on all the ups and downs related to business. And I asked, and she was willing to talk to me, and it was very helpful. You will be surprised when you actually ask people how willing they are to talk to you and provide you with advice. And it was so helpful because this woman has the history and the wisdom from being a business owner longer than me in my field, and was able to speak to the ups and downs of business about how this will get better. It's a period of time, full confidence that I can turn this around, but it's a blip in your story and that you can keep going and it will get better, and some advice on how to do that. And that was a really encouraging conversation to me and something that definitely helped me move forward and know that I could do it, and really helpful context to know that this is normal, and learning to accept the ups and downs of business, which is a challenge for me to accept, is something that I need to learn to deal with better and to approach more positively because it is going to happen. The fourth thing that I would say is to consider professional advice. This can look in many different ways. It could be through therapy, could be through coaching. And there were moments through this experience where I paid for therapy. There were times I had to take a break from that for financial considerations, but it can really help provide professional, valuable, evidence-based advice about how to tackle these situations and fluctuations. I found that very helpful. But the time I was going through this, I did access some therapy. But now that I'm on the other side of that, something that I'm looking at accessing is coaching. And so for different periods of your life and different things, these can be helpful things to invest in to help you move along. Now, one of the challenges with this is that this support can be expensive, and we all know that, and that can be a barrier, especially if you're already going through a tough time because finances might be part of that. And I do want to note that there are really a lot of free resources out there, whether it's podcasts, books, courses. I went and searched out podcast episodes, for instance, on what to do when your business does start booming and how do you manage that, which is something I'm experiencing now, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. And so being able to access some of that advice for free can be really helpful. You can use the library or even free courses that you can access, as I mentioned. Even buying a book is going to be a lot cheaper, maybe, than paying for therapy. And so there are lots of different options out there. Another place to look that I was just thinking about is social media as well. TikTok, for instance, has a ton of therapists on there, HR professionals, all kinds of people who are creating content on issues maybe that you care about or need to learn about. Number five is perseverance and resilience. One of the most important lessons in these moments is that you might feel quite broken. You might feel like you cannot motivate yourself to keep going. You're questioning if you should. And it is really helpful to have people around you who believe in you and who can encourage you to just keep going, to take one next right step, and to believe in you when you can't believe in yourself. And so being persistent, moving forward, working through the hard things, and relying on that network to not give up is really important. And I just want to say that some of these things that we've talked about today, when we talk about the five different things that I've shared, when you are in good times, it is important to work on these things. A lot of what I've talked about today requires relationships, right? Professional, maybe mentors, friends, people in your industry. That takes time to build those relationships. Now, I want to say that you can still do all of these things without having all of these relationships already in place. Like I mentioned, you can find podcasters and people on social media who you can rely on for free learning, or you can ask somebody in your business for coffee to pick their brain. You don't have to know them already. That's uncomfortable, but you can do those things. But a big piece of advice would be to also, when things are good and going well, try and develop those relationships which are beneficial for you and the other person, and that then you can have to rely on over the longer term. And it's really hard to do that work, but it's really important to do it. And you need to make time for it in your schedule to actually make it happen. So we've talked a little bit about where I've been and some of the different ways that you can navigate some challenging things for yourself, from embracing your emotions, developing a strategic action plan, seeking support and guidance, considering professional advice, perseverance, the need for perseverance and resilience. And now we're going to talk about, where are we today? So business has stabilized. Of course, I run a consulting business, so that's always up and down. So maybe next week that looks a little bit different. And a lot of other areas of my life have stabilized as well, partially because the business is so intertwined when you own a business and the impacts on your life and your finances. In fact, over the last couple weeks and months, it's actually sped up to an uncomfortable rate. I'm a person who dreams pretty big, and all of a sudden, as I was mapping out things for the next couple months and everything for my business, that when things were really tough, we have launched a few exciting things this year and we've added more clients. And all of a sudden, I'm hiring people and doing all kinds of different and new things. And that can be uncomfortable. And now I'm dreaming bigger than I ever was. And that's never really made me uncomfortable before. And now it is. So that's something new that I'm having to work through. And I can work through that with also some of those other tips that I provided with you earlier. I have a lot to learn as I create a new mindset through this period, keeping in mind what I've learned about ups and downs, but also how to embrace what's next. There are constant learnings when you own your own business. You figure something out, and then something new is thrown at you. And in very Stephanie fashion, I'm coming back strong. As I mentioned before, my business, Beacon North Strategies, we do public affairs consulting. And this year, I've partnered with Natasha Hope Morano from NHM Consulting, who you will know from one of the previous episodes, and I will throw that in the show notes. And we are launching something called Next Gen 2024, which is an event for professional development for those in public affairs. That event is a national event taking place in Ottawa. I will add those details in the show notes in case that's something of interest to you. We've also now are launching the new season of the podcast, which is also very exciting. And in typical Stephanie fashion, there is at least one more launch coming this year. If you ask me, am I tired? The answer is yes, if I'm truthful, but I'm working through it. I'm so glad you're here on this journey with me as I learn and grow through my entrepreneurial obsession. My mindset and words for focus this year, after everything that I've said, I think will make a lot of sense. And that is balance and embrace. Balance because I love work. I love being an entrepreneur. I love creating things, but I also want to be a good mom. And although balance, I think, isn't really necessarily true, I personally need to constantly make an effort to prioritize people, as I could really just work my life away in many respects. And I'm also not great at taking care of my health. And so balance is something that I am working on trying to be better about achieving. The second word that I'm using this year to help me with my focus is embracing the challenges as well as the opportunities, which both can be big and scary. And so this is how I'm leaning into this next leg, this future leg of my journey. I'm excited for you to join me on this journey of growth, opportunities, challenges, and I can't wait to share more about this as we learn and grow together, whether I'm sharing something I'm learning or we're listening and learning to some of our guests who inspire us every day. I want to close off with some action items. So, as I said, today with the drop of this new season of the podcast, there are some additional episodes that were in the backlog that you can now listen to. And a second action item is to grab the download in the bottom, the free download that will help you walk through the strategic next steps that you can take to move forward in the challenge and take the next steps forward in whatever you're going through. So make sure that you grab that as well. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Women Don't Do That. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating or review. Connect with us on Instagram at Women Don't Do That and visit our website www.womendon'tdothat.com for more details. Join our Patreon to support our work. Find all of the links in the show notes. Remember, you have the power to transform your what ifs into let's go. Together, let's redefine your possible. Until next time.